Okay, so we're on to view 2, which is rolling hills leading down to the sea. Now for this, in either the black or the cream yarn, you need to make a chain of 53. So I didn't feel you needed to watch me do that again. So make your chain of 53, and then we're going to work a treble, a UK treble, into the 4th chain from the hook. So that's 1, 2, 3. So I'm going to work into that one like so. So that's my first true treble. This counts as a treble as before, so take that as a valid stitch. And basically for this one we're going to just work the standard UK treble all the way across the row until we get to the other end. Do pause as you get to the final stitch because we will be changing colour. So you need 51 stitches, and so if you just pause before you get to the end, and as we pick up row 2 we will change colour at that point. Okay, see you in a minute. So we've got to the end of row 1. I've checked that I have got my 51 stitches, and for me I'm now joining in the next colour yarn. Now yarn G, if I can ever get to the bottom of it, is this lovely lime green that we have in the cotton soft. So I'm going with the cotton soft in the lime for this next bit. So find the end, and as before you swap to the new colour with the last stitch of the previous row. And as those of you who've watched me before will know, I do actually like to work the first loop of the chain with the new colour. So we're going to do a chain of 3, so that's 1 with this tail piece. I just think it gives you a little bit more control. You can pull it a little bit tighter if you need to at the end. I'm now finding my new working yarn in the lime green, and I'm doing 2 more chains. So across this one we are working trebles all the way across, so that again at the end of it we'll have 51 trebles, including this set of 3 here. Now I quite like to work some of the tail ends in as I go along, so I am actually going to crochet over that one. It's entirely up to you if you do that or not. Sometimes it's easier to leave them to the end just in case you find that you've crocheted them in very neatly and it's across the front rather than the back. So I'll leave that one up to you. But basically now you are going to work 2 rows of trebles. So when you get to the other end, do a chain of 3, turn round and repeat this row again. Each time you'll have 51 stitches, and that includes this set of 3 chains at the end. So we'll pick up again at the end of row 3 just to show you what we've achieved, and then we'll move on to row 4. Okay. So this is where we are at the end of row 3. You're not going to be changing yarns at the moment, so keep on with whichever colour's on your hook. I have chosen to cut off the cream because we're not going to be using this again until quite a bit further up. So I've decided to cut that off and just use the lime green for now. Just read slightly ahead as you're doing each thing, just in case there are points where you do want to keep your yarn running up the side even though you've changed colour for maybe a row. Sometimes that won't be possible. You'll have to cut off and move to the other end of the row. But for now I've chosen to cut off the cream and just work in the lime green. So we'll see you again with row 4. Okay, so row 4 starts as rippling across. So we're going to start with a chain of 4, and that counts as the first double treble. And then we're going to do 1 treble into each of the next 2 stitches, so not that one. We're going to work a treble there, and then a treble there, then a half treble into the next 2 stitches. So you wrap in, grab, pull back through, wrap and through 2, and we need to work a second one of those, and then one double crochet, so that's a UK double, so that's just through, grab some yarn, wrap and pull through 2, and then a half treble into each of the next 2 stitches. That's 1 half treble, 2, and then a treble into the next 2 stitches. Let's bring it back through, round through 2, round and through 2, so the stitches are getting longer again, or taller. And then a double treble, so that's where you wrap twice before going into the hole. Bring it back through, so I've now got 4 loops on the hook, round and through 2, round and through 2, round and through 2. And then we're going to repeat that sequence, so a treble into each of the next 2 stitches, and then a half treble into each of the next 2 stitches, a double crochet into the next stitch, and then 2 half trebles, one into each of the next 2 stitches, then 2 normal trebles, and then finally a double treble again. So you keep working this sequence across the row, so you can see what you're getting there. You're getting a nice little undulation happening. Keep repeating the sequence until you get to the end of the row, and that should be 4 sequences, and you'll end part way up a section at the side. So we'll come back at the end of the row and show you what you should have achieved. Okay. So here we are at the end of row 4. So you started on a chain of 4 and we've ended on a double treble. So that gives the nice even look going all the way through, and you should have a fairly similar looking wave going through. So that's row 4. We'll join you in a moment again with row 5. Okay, so here we are back with row 5. Now rows 5 and 6 are both worked exactly the same, so I'm just going to show you the beginnings of the row 5 and then let you crack on with that. So we start with a chain of 3, and then we're going to work 1 treble into the base of that, so that's this stitch here. So in effect there we've done an increase, and then we're going to work 1 treble into each of the next 3 stitches. So that's 1, 2, 3, and then we're going to treble 3 together over the next 3 stitches. So that's wrap and in, grab, pull it back through, wrap and through 2, leave those 2 on your needle. Then we start again, we wrap, we go into the next stitch, we grab and pull it back through, so at that point you've got 4 loops. Then we do round and through 2, so we're back to 3. Then we start again, we wrap, we go in, grab it, bring it back through. So each time we've picked the next hole along, we grab that, we pull that back through. So we've now got 4 stitches on, and then we're going to wrap and we're going to pull through all 4. So that's changed those 3 stitches and brought them back to just being 1. Okay, and then we've got 1 treble in each of the next 3 stitches. So these are all your standard UK trebles being worked across. And then, because we've lost some stitches, we now need to increase. So we're going to do 3 trebles into the next stitch. So that's the longest stitch of the row below. We're actually working 3 trebles and creating a little fan. So there, I've got 3 trebles all worked into the same hole. Now we're going to repeat this again from the 1 treble into each of the next 3 stitches. Again, this is on your instructions and it's marked with stars and things, so when you're reading through it, it's very well explained. So we've got 3 trebles there, a treble 3 together, so that's a first part worked treble, and then the second part worked treble, and the third one. So you've got 3 part worked trebles. That's your original stitch, which is why you've got the 4th loop there, and then pull it through all 4 loops and you've done your treble 3 together, and then 1 treble into each of the next 3 stitches. So that's 1, 2, 3, and then 3 trebles. Oops, lost it there. 1, 2, 3. So as you can see, you've got this nice ripple running across. So you've got your decrease in here and your increase in there, decrease in here and your increase in there. So keep going across the row, follow the written instructions, they're lovely and clear. When you get to the end of the row, you will turn round and then do another chain of 3, and you don't lose or gain stitches overall. You will have exactly the same number at the end as you've started with at the beginning, so do just check that your stitch count is right, and you'll be fine. So we'll see you again at the end of row 6 and then into row 7. Okay, so that's how we look at the end of row 6. We're now going to start row 7, which is not difficult but just a little bit more to think about. So we're starting with a chain of 3 and then a 1 treble in the base of that chain 3, and then we're going to double crochet. Oh sorry, no, we're going to have 3 individual trebles. Okay, and then this is where it starts to change. So rather than doing treble 3 together, we're doing the double crochet 3 together. So for that, you just go straight into the hole and bring it back through, then straight into the next hole and bring it back through, and then straight into the next hole and bring it back through. So you've got just the 4 loops on, and then you pull that together, and that pulls it down, giving it quite a steep curve. Then we're going to do 3 more trebles, one into each of the next 3 stitches, like so, and then we're doing 3 double trebles into the next stitch, so we're really making a tall peak. So the double trebles for us is you wrap it twice, and then go and grab some yarn from the other side of the hole, bring it through 2, bring it through 2, bring it through 2. So we do that again, wrap twice into the hole, grab it and bring it back through. So you've got your 4 loops, wrap through 2, wrap through 2, wrap through 2, and again wrap it twice into the hole, grab it, bring it back through, wrap through 2, wrap through 2, wrap and through 2. So we've got 3 double trebles there, and then again 1 treble into each. So that's just the individual wrap there, around and through 2, and we're doing that twice. 3 times. We've got 3 there, and then double crochet 3 together, so that's straight into the hole, bring it back through, into the next hole, bring your thread back through, and into the next hole, bring your thread back through, so you've got your 4 loops, wrap, bring it through all 4. So you're continuing this all the way across, so we've got 3 individual trebles. And then 3 double trebles all worked into the same hole, so that's where you've got your 4 wraps on your hook, and again wrap it twice through, bring it back through with the yarn, wrap through 2, wrap through 2, wrap and through 2, and again. So you're going to carry on all the way to the end, ending up with 2 trebles in your final stitch. When you work in that final stitch, you will be changing colour. For me, I am going on to this lovely blue, which is called Sax. So we'll be moving on to that at the end, ready for starting row 8. So we'll see you again shortly for row 8. Okay, so we finished row 7, and at the end of row 7 you changed to yarn H, which for me was the Sax, the lovely blue colour. So I've already done that, and I have cut off the green because I now don't need the green again, so I find it best to get rid of it. So we're now going to start with a 1 chain, which, as you know, if you've watched these before, I like to do with the tail of the new working yarn, and that one isn't going to count as a stitch. And now we're going to work a double crochet into the back loop only of that one, so that's there. So as you can see along here, there are these 2, and we're going just into that back loop. I'm going to pull that through, and then that completes the double crochet. Next we're going to do a half treble into the back loop only, but of the next 2 stitches. So that's a wrap, you go into that back loop, wrap, bring it back through, wrap and through all 3. So that's a half treble for in the UK terms. Pull that through. So I've done 2 half trebles. Then I'm doing a full treble into the back loop of the next stitch. So we start in the same way, but this time we do the round and through 2 and the yarn round and through 2. And then we do 3 double trebles, 1 into each of the back loop only of the next 3 stitches. So that's a double wrap in to the back loop, grab it, bring it back through, round through 2, round through 2, round and through 2, and I'm going to be doing that again twice more. So double wrap, find the back loop on the previous row, bring it back through, round and through 2, round and through 2, round and through 2, and then again grab that, bring it back through, round and through 2, round and through 2, round and through 2. So that's my 3 double trebles. Then we're going back up the other side, so we're doing 1 treble. All of these are done into the back loop only. 2 half trebles, so that's where you get to the same point but pull through all 3 stitches. So I need 2 of those. Don't worry if, like me, you seem to have it pulling quite wide. As you work your way along the row, that evens itself out. So that's half trebles into 2 stitches and 1 double crochet into that back loop only. So you can see how on this, I hope, that we're filling in the V. So we're ending up with virtually a straight line here. technically it's completely straight, but don't worry if yours isn't totally. So let's just do part of that repeat again for you. So we've got a half treble into the back loops of the next 2 stitches, so that's 1 half treble into each. Then we've got 1 normal treble into the back loop, and then we're doing these 3 individual double trebles, so that's where you wrap twice before going into the hole. So 1, so we wrap twice into the stitch, pull it back through, round and through 2, round and through 2, and round and through 2 again. So 1 more to work. 1, 2, 3, and then we're going to work a treble into the next stitch and half trebles into the next 2 stitches, and then a double crochet. So we're going to keep working that to the end of the row. You'll have repeated it 4 times in total, but we'll join you again for row 9. Okay. So this is how we look at the end of row 8, and we're about to start row 9, which is really lovely and simple. If you notice here now, you can see that we've got the straight edge back. So now we're going to work a very simple row of starting with a chain of 3, and then we're basically going to work 1 treble into every stitch all the way across, and including the chain of 3 you should have 51 stitches again at the end. So chain of 3 and then a standard UK treble all the way to the end, and we'll pick you up again at the end and go into row 10. So at the end of row 9, this is how we look. We've got a nice neat row of trebles. Do count at this point. I have just counted and made sure that I've got that last stitch. That first double crochet is really easy to miss to work into, so make sure you've got your 51. We're now going to turn round and do row 10, which is a little bit more intricate, and just a little reminder that we change yarns at the end of this row, so do make sure that you do that pull through for the final stitch in the other colour. So we start off with a chain of 4. This counts as the first double treble, and then we're going to work a double treble into each of the next 2 stitches. So that's 2 wraps and into your next stitch and back through, round and through 2, round and through 2, round and through 2. So we'll just work the second one. Okay, and then 1 treble into each of the next 2 stitches, so that's where you just do the 1 wrap and round and through 2 twice, and then a half treble. So we start in the same way as a treble, but then pull through all 3 stitches at once. A double crochet, remember these are all UK ones, into the next 3 stitches, a half treble into the next stitch, a treble into the next 2 stitches, so that's 1 treble and a second treble, and then double trebles into the next 3 stitches. So that's 1, 2, oops, I've got a bit of a snail up in my yarn, and 3. Okay. So then we go in with a treble into the next 2 stitches, followed by a half treble, so you pull through all 3, 3 separate double crochet, then we're going back up the other side, so we start with a half treble and then a treble, and a double treble, and we do 3 of those, so that's 1, 2, 3. And we're going to keep repeating that combination, so refer to your written instructions. We're going to repeat that combination all the way to the end. Final stitch, do the final pull through with your cream, and then we'll pick up and do the next row. Okay, so I've got to the end here and got this nice wave going again, and I have changed to the cream yarn as we've swapped over. Now I have fastened off the blue because when we pick back up again we're going to be at the other end of the row, so you can't actually carry your yarn up the side. It would end up going the whole way across the back of the work. So to start this row, you pull through 1 chain, and as you know I like to do that with the tail, so that's what I've just done. I am now going to set my hand up with the other yarn, or with the running yarn. The 1 chain doesn't count as a stitch, so we're doing a double crochet right into the very first stitch there, and pull that one through. Now the back of the work, this is the back of the work, the wrong side, so if you do want to carry your threads and fasten them in as you go along, do make sure that they are at the back. Now I'm not actually going to do that with the cream because I think at the moment that would show too much, so we'll work on sewing that in later. But if I'm working a double crochet at this side, if you want to, you can try and work your blue yarn in. So we're doing a double crochet all the way across, and for the first few stitches at least I'm going to keep that blue yarn tucked in there. If you find that's a bit too tricky, not everybody likes it, and some people feel it makes their work a little bit more messy, just sew it in afterwards. It's entirely up to you. So I'm going to leave that there, and I will just tuck it in and neaten it off afterwards. But basically you work in UK double crochets nice and neat all the way across the back. So I'm going to finish off this row and then we'll pick up in the next row, and you will be picking back up with the nice blue yarn, so make sure you've got that to hand and do the final pull through with the blue. Okay, so here we are at the end of row 11, and I have fastened off the cream yarn, and I'm now going to turn around and we're back with the nice bright blue. We do a 1 chain, which doesn't count as a stitch, and again I'm doing that with the tail, and then I'm going to grab the working yarn and do a double crochet into that very first stitch, and then for a further 2, so we've got 3 double crochet right at the beginning, and then we've got a half treble into the next 2 stitches, so that's 1 half treble and another one. So don't forget you start as a treble but pull through all 3 in one go, then a treble into the next stitch, double treble into each of the next 3 stitches. So that's 1, and as you can see I'm fastening the blue in at the back. If that's too tricky, don't bother. If you like to do that, then please do. Then we've got a treble into the next stitch and a half treble into the following 2 stitches, and double crochet into each of the next 3 stitches. So if I just lay that down a second, you can see how you're starting to get the opposite wave there. So where it's been deep stitches and narrow stitches, we're now working in the other way. We're now going to repeat, in your instructions you'll be repeating from the star. So that's a half treble into the next 2 stitches, a treble into the next stitch, a double treble into the next 3 stitches, 1, 2, 3, a treble into the next stitch, a half treble into the next 2 stitches, and then double crochet into the next 3. Now I'll let you carry on the rest of the row yourselves. When you get to the end, we're changing back to the cream, so do the last pull through on the last stitch in the cream and then we'll start again. Okay, see you soon. Okay, so we have finished row 12. Got this nice set of wavy undulations going again, and I am joining in with the ecru again. Right, so as before we're doing another row, so I am going to do 1 chain with the tail, and then I'm going to start right in the very first stitch. So I need to get the working yarn, get that one out of the way, and again really simply we're going to be working UK double crochets all the way across the row. I'm not going to make you watch me do 51 of these. So you can see again we're just doing really simple all the way through, no back loops or front loops, just solidly through both pieces. When you get to the end of this, we're changing colour for a different colour. Colour J for me is the cloud, cotton soft cloud. So I'm going to be changing to that one in the final stitch of this particular row, and I'll join you at the beginning of the next row. Okay, so we've now finished the 2 sets of white little ripples that are the tops of the waves, and we're now moving on to row 14. So row 14 to 21 are all basically the same. The only difference at the end is that you've got to remember to change your yarn colour on the very last row. So I'm doing 1 chain with the tail and another 2 chains with the working yarn. I will just say as well, I've just spent about 5 minutes just sewing all the ends in so that they're out of the way. These are the only 2 left, and I'm going to sew them in a minute. I find it quite frustrating when there's lots of threads around and you keep snagging them around the other yarn at the back. So right, this chain of 3 counts as your first treble, and then basically you are working 1 treble into every stitch all the way along. So that counts as your first one. That's worked into the last stitch there. So nothing more complicated than that. A UK treble all the way to the end of the row. Then you turn, do your chain of 3 and go back along the row. The one word of advice bit of advice I'll give you is do double check, count your number of stitches after every row, because it is so easy when you're doing this plain section to either lose or gain stitches. We've all done it, and it's quite frustrating when you get to the other end and realise you don't have the right stitch count. So do keep regularly checking your stitch count, but you're now basically going up to row 21 before we need to do anything any different. So enjoy this little bit of therapeutic crochet. See you again soon. Okay, so here we are at the end of row 21, starting row 22. So I've already swapped to my new yarn by pulling through the last loop with the new colour, and because I know I don't need it anymore, I have cut off the other yarn. And for this we are doing exactly the same as we've been doing for previous rows, but just in the new colour. So I'm doing 1 chain with the tail and 2 chains with the working yarn, and then we're basically going to work trebles all the way across the back. If you wish, and if you feel dexterous enough with your fingers, you can carry the other thread across the back and crochet it in, because this is definitely the front. You can see with this raised stitch here, that's the front. So we're just going to do full trebles all the way across this row to the other end. And so again, won't make you watch me do a load of trebles. We'll just meet you back up at the other end and as we get on to the next row. Okay, see you in a minute. Okay, so I have finished row 22 and I have now turned round. So we're on to row 23, and this one's just slightly different in that we're doing 2 chains instead of 3, and that counts as the first UK half treble. And then we're going to work a half treble into every stitch along. Do make sure you keep missing that base there, or you're going to end up increasing, which you don't want to do. We want a nice straight piece of fabric based on the 51 stitches. So it's a wrap in, grab it, pull it back through, wrap and through through all 3, not through 2. So wrap in, grab, pull it back through, wrap and through all 3. Keep doing that all the way to the end. When you get to the end, we are going to turn and then we'll start to work the border. Okay, see you again shortly. Okay, so we have finished the half trebles and we have turned, and we're now going to work a border that's very similar to the border that we worked on the previous square. I'm going to call it a square even though it's an oblong. So we do 1 chain, and then that's not going to count as a stitch. We miss the first stitch and we slip stitch to here. So that's where you've gone in, grabbed some yarn but just pulled it straight through. Okay, and then chain of 3 and 2 trebles. So that chain of 3 is going to count as the first treble in the set of 3. And then, as we did on a previous round, we're missing 2 stitches, and then we're going to work 3 trebles into the next hole. You can just check here at this point that you are on the right side, because it does need to be right side facing. So you should have this little lip here where you worked into the back loops only of the previous row. So nice and easy sets of 3 trebles, and then we miss 2 stitches, so miss that one, work into that one, going under both so that you've got a nice firm join. Keep doing that all the way along to the end. You should just have one, that very final corner stitch left, so the one that was the chain of 3 at the other end. So keep working that all the way across. You should end up with 17 groups of trebles, if my calculations are correct, at the other end. So we'll come back in a moment when we've got to the other end, and we'll do the corner and start to work down the side. Okay, see you again in a moment. Okay, so I've got my sets of trebles down there. To do a corner, it's literally a 2 chain, and then we need 12 groups of 3 trebles going down here. I've marked sort of roughly the halfway mark, so I am going to work trebles 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and then 6, so that's going to be where my 6th treble or sets of trebles is going in, and then I've got to space another 6 all the way down, the last lot ending in this set at this end. So this is the slightly fiddly bit where you need to spread them out, and that's why I have put a marker in. So I'm going to work 6 sets up to here and then work another 6 sets in that section. So I'll come back after and show you where I've worked them, just to help give you hints for where to work yours, but just basically keep it even. So we'll start again. I'll come back when I've worked my sets of 3 and show you what I've done. Okay. Okay, so down the side, this is where I've worked my sets of trebles. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So you've got your 12 there. Hopefully you can zoom in if you need to and see exactly where I've worked them. That may be helpful. If not, obviously do your own thing, it's your crochet. Then we obviously turn and do a chain of 2, and then we miss that first stitch there, because you quite often forget that's the first stitch, but it is. It's the chain 3 that we did. And then you need to start working sets of 3 trebles. Again, it's every 3rd stitch, so it's sort of nice and easy to think of. Everything's worked in 3s. So we put 1 in there, miss those 2, and then start with the next one. This row always looks that bit looser when you're working it, but don't worry, it works and it's nice and strong when you've finished. So don't panic with it. So 1, 2, 3. So I won't make you watch me do them all the way across the row as usual. So I'll just lay that there a second so you can see it. So I'm going to work all the way across to the other corner and then do the 2 chain again, and then start to work up the other side. And I'll come back and show you what I've done as I've finished all that. Okay. Okay, so I've finished the first round of the border. So at the end here you do your chain of 2, and then you do your slip stitch into the top of the original chain 3, and that joins everything together. So what you should end up with are 17 groups of trebles along the long sides, 2 chains in every corner, and then 12 groups of trebles across the ends. So I've tried to, I'll just fold it up like that because I haven't got a lot of space here. So condensed, hopefully you can see that I've tried to match up where I've picked up down the sides. So that's the end of round 1. I'm going to come back in a moment and start you with round 2, which is relatively simple, so no worries about that one. But yeah, we'll do round 2 in just a moment. Okay, so for the second round of the border, you do turn the work and you do have the back facing you. Now, as before, you do a chain of 3. This will count as the final stitch of the long row, not the row that you're about to work. So just bear that in mind when you're counting. So we're now going to work 2 trebles, 1 chain and another 2 trebles, all into the 2 chain corner space, and every corner is going to be worked the same. So 2 trebles, 1 chain, 2 trebles into the corner space. And now to do your really easy border, it's just individual UK trebles all the way across, 1 into every stitch. So you can work this obviously without watching me for the next 10 minutes or 5 minutes, however long it takes to do. We'll come back at the end, I'll show you what we've got and go through the stitch count with you just to make sure. So we'll be back in a minute with what you should finish up with. Okay, see you soon. Okay, so here we are all finished. So as you can see, it's a little bit big for the screen. So we have 55 stitches along the top. That does include the 2 of the stitches that are in the corner, and then you have 40 stitches across here, again including 2 of the stitches at either end that are in the corners. So that's what you're working towards. So the finished item we've got there. I've just left the loop here for now. I literally just cut the yarn and pull that through, and then I'll sew that in neatly at the back. So that is week 1 finished, and we will join you again next week for week 2, which I think you'll find interesting and challenging at the same time. So I hope you've enjoyed that, and we'll see you in the next one. Okay, bye for now.